The ocean is undoubtedly one of the most terrifying places on planet Earth. If you were to go up to someone and ask them what is unquestionably the most scariest place you could ever imagine, I'm fairly certain that about 90% of them would say it was probably the ocean, and with good reason. Between the giant ass fish with like a million rows of teeth, to shrimp that could perform a real life falcon punch, to small pods of sexual predators that repeatedly snort pufferfish in order to get themselves high, only to then stalk the shallow waters in search of innocent humans to perform unspeakable things too. The ocean is undoubtedly one of the most terrifying places on planet Earth. But it can be a lot scarier. I'm doing something a little different to what I normally do. For like the two of you that actually care, you might have noticed that I kind of stopped the Don't Starve Together series that I was doing. Mainly because I accidentally, I lost the footage for part 4 of that series. So I'm temporarily putting a hold on that series for now, in order to experiment with other kind of content, basically. Since the spooky month is like right around the corner, I wanted to start making videos that are horror related, and one of the topics I always wanted to cover for like a video was like something to do with like the SCP Foundation. And today in particular, we're gonna be focused on one of my personal favorite SCPs, just for like the insane concept of what it is, which is SCP-1128. Now let me make something absolutely clear. This, I don't think, is one of the best SCPs to ever exist, mainly because there's like not a whole lot of information about it due to the very nature of SCP-1128, but like the concept alone is so incredibly ridiculous and absolutely over the top that I kind of just fell in love with it, and I just have to tell you about it because this thing is like probably one of the craziest concepts I've ever heard for like a sea monster. And like I have like this feverish obsession with anything that is like ocean related. Like if I were to have like a dream job, it would have to do something with the ocean. Like I love learning about like crazy ass stories of sea monsters and shit. And so this thing was like right up my alley. And like the concept alone is just so horrifyingly hilarious that I just kind of wanted to tell someone about it. Oh my god. Don't get me wrong, this thing is legitimately terrifying for like what it is. But like some of the details in the story are just kind of goofy, but in a way that I like love. So without further ado, let's just jump into this. So, what is the SCP Foundation? The SCP Foundation is basically a secret government organization, think like the CIA or the KGB, who specialize in containing supernatural entities known as anomalies. Anomalies could be like extremely varied and diverse in what they could actually be. Some of them could be like humanoid creatures that have the ability to snap your neck instantaneously, to like diseases that transform you into like this hideous like amalgamation flesh monster type shit, to like an entire underground city that is an exact replica of the city of London. They can be extremely varied and diverse in what they are. When the Foundation finds an anomaly, they classify it as an SCP which stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect, and then it's given a serial number. So SCP-1128, simple as. After it is given a serial number, it is then giving a classification based on how hard the entity in question is to contain. This is something that a lot of people who talk about SCP time they get wrong sometimes. The way the Foundation classifies an SCP is based on how difficult the anomaly in question is to contain. So, for example, if you were to have, let's say, I don't know if this is an actual SCP. I'm just making it up. Let's say you would have a lighter that its anomalous ability is whenever you light the lighter, it sets the entire building that you're on fire. But in every other aspect, it is a lighter. So if you could take this lighter and put it in a box, then it will be classified as a safe SCP. If you were to have something that was like, say, a little unpredictable and like kind of like had some sort of, let's say, like sentience, like maybe like a creature that wasn't particularly threatening, it was just kind of, you're unsure if you were able to keep it in a room or not, that would probably be like a Euclid. If you were to have something that is constantly trying to escape or has like some sort of crazy ability, like I want to know, like the ability to like literally create a pocket dimension and just like walk through walls and like turn like solid matter into some sort of sludge, that would be a Keter. To be fair, it is easy to see why people kind of get confused on how SCPs are classified. So let's be honest. An entity that literally has the ability to like turn you into sludge just by touching you and could like travel between a pocket dimension and will just often drag you into that pocket dimension to just torture you for fun is also going to be extremely difficult to contain. The two kind of go hand in hand, like an SCP being dangerous and it being difficult to contain. Like you can kind of see how those two things kind of overlap sometimes. But like in my stupid lighter example, a lighter that literally has the ability to set an entire building on fire just by lighting the lighter. You don't even have to like touch, like set anything on fire with the flame. You just light the lighter and then boom, the entire building is on fire. Very dangerous, but it's just a lighter. I could just put this in a box and it'd be okay. Like the point I'm trying to make here is that SCPs are not classified based on how dangerous they are, but rather on how difficult they are to contain. Now that you understand how SCPs are classified and like what the Foundation is, like an extremely abridged version of what the Foundation is, there's a lot of shit to talk about when it comes to the Foundation for itself, but that is like a whole different topic because there's just way too much information for me to go over right now. Let's focus on like the main topic for this video now, which is SCP-1128. SCP-1128 is a Euclid class entity, which in my opinion is like not a fitting classification for SCP-1128. It takes the form of a large carnivorous sea creature that lives in an undisclosed area of ocean, and that is all we know about it. The reason we don't have any more additional information about 1128 is due to its main anomalous trait, which is being given a physical description or seeing a visual depiction of 1128's physical form will cause its main ability to manifest, which is whenever you're like looking at water, it doesn't matter how deep the water is. Like it can be like a sink, like a bathtub, or a bottle of water, you will start to see the visage of 1128 swimming through the water. Furthermore, if you actually make physical contact with the water, so like in the bathtub example, if you were to climb into the bathtub, like knowing what 1128 looks like, then you would sink into the bathtub and be transported to 1128's location, which is a vast ocean that we're never given a specific like sort of area of where 1128 is. It's just kind of just your generic ocean, but basically you're transported to this ocean where 1128 is, and then 1128 will hunt you down and attempt to murder you. It is possible to escape 1128 by swimming back up to the surface, which will take you back to wherever it is you were transported from. So in this case, it would be like the bathroom where the bathtub was located. And people who emerge from the water usually do so in a panic state because, you know, there's a giant fucking sea monster trying to eat them. Sometimes, though, the people don't resurface, and in those instances, just a big pool of blood will appear in the body of water where the subject disappeared into, and there will also be like various bits of gore floating back up to the surface as well. Since we're never given a full description of what SCP-1128 looks like, because, you know, that would be bad, it's kind of hard to understand just how massive this creature is. But fortunately, there is an experiment log that involves a D-class personnel, which, for those of you who don't know your SCP lore, a D-class personnel is essentially a death row inmate that is given to the Foundation by various governments throughout the world, and the Foundation uses these inmates as essentially human guinea pigs that they use for testing with different anomalies. Yeah, the SCP Foundation is kind of fucked up. But anyway, this particular experiment involved a D-class subject who was given a physical description of 1128's appearance via a pamphlet. He was then outfitted with some diving equipment and was hooked up to a cable and winch and was lowered into a pool, which transported him to 1128's location. They actually lower him so far down that he actually hits the bottom of this ocean, which I'm not sure how deep it is, because again, we're never given like a location for where 1128 is. But he essentially like gets lowered down into a patch of seaweed, and as he's making his way through the seaweed, he spots 1128 and, you know, freaks the fuck out. He then describes 1128's appearance to the researchers, and the researchers tell him to stop describing it. They don't explain why, because they probably know this dude's gonna die. But anyway, so after the D class is done freaking the fuck out, the researchers ask him to like tell them what it's doing. And as the D-class subject is observing 1128, it sees that it has a whale in its mouth, and it's consuming the whale. And the story never specifies like what kind of whale 1128 is just like casually munching on. I'm assuming it's supposed to be like a humpback whale, so that should probably give you an idea of just how fucking massive this creature is, that it's just like casually consuming a humpback whale for like breakfast. After 1128 is done munching on the whale, it spots the D-class personnel and decides, hey, I could use a human being to wash down this whale. So 1128 then makes a beeline to the D-class subject and attempts to consume him, to which, obviously it succeeds. The dude doesn't come back. He's just dead. All that remains of the D-class personnel is his blood and various bits of gore that float back to the surface. So, rest in peace, guy. Now, fortunately, even though the researchers were given a physical description of 1128's appearance by the D-class personnel, it is actually possible to, essentially, negate the effects of 1128. And that is because in order for 1128's effects to manifest, you have to have memory of 1128's appearance. So, the only way you could be transported to 1128's location is if you know what 1128 looks like. You can know it exists, but you can't know what it is. Otherwise, whenever you come into contact with water, there's a very high chance that you will be transported to 1128's location. The way you counter this is by taking something known as Class C amnestics, which in the SCP universe are essentially just memory wiping drugs that don't fully wipe your memory. They just wipe your memory to a certain point, meaning all the researchers involved in this experiment took Class C amnestics to forget that it ever happened, and all that remains of this experiment is the experiment log, to which hazardous information was taken out of the log, such as 1128's physical description. So that's how the researchers have this information. Where things start to get goofy with 1128 comes with this other experiment that involved a separate D-class. So normally experiments with 1128 that involve D-class, if the D-class subject somehow survives, they are given amnestics and are just used for a different experiment, just like how you would do. But for this particular unlucky bastard, he was not given amnestics and was repeatedly exposed to 1128, to which point he developed acute aquaphobia and thalassophobia. I think that's how you pronounce that. And he would just be in this perpetual state of panic, and they would basically wanted to see how long someone could survive with the knowledge of 1128's appearance. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this experiment lasted for about a week, and the experiment was cut abruptly short. Probably one of the most ridiculous deaths I've ever read in a story. So basically what happened was, this D-class subject was just chilling in his cell or wherever, and he goes to get a glass of water, to which point, after he pours himself the glass of water, 1128 reaches out of the glass of water and pulls him into the water bottle, or the glass, and then the glass of water just explodes into a fountain of blood, and it's just oh my god, I fucking died laughing. That mental image of just this dude just casually just pouring himself a glass of water, and it's just this fucking giant ass sea creature just reaches out from the glass of water and grabs him and pulls him in there. It's just so goofy to just imagine that. Oh my god, I fucking love it. Oh, it's the best, dude. Now at this point you're probably wondering how the Foundation keeps this bastard locked up in containment, because it's so big that it could just casually eat humpback whales for breakfast. And this is kind of where I started to question why this thing is classified as a Euclid, because me personally, I would have classified it as a Keter, because it's just this giant fuck off massive sea beast that eats whales and pulls dudes to water bottles. But basically what the Foundation has done is they essentially set up like a perimeter around 1128's location. They can't move it, obviously, because I think it's too big and like way too dangerous. So they essentially like set up a perimeter. Like they have like a mobile task force, which are basically like the SCP's like military armed forces. Basically, they're basically just like the dudes who are like boots on the ground, and they're, you know, they're the muscle of the Foundation, basically. This particular task force, which is called the Sea Devils, who specialize in containing aquatic-based SCPs, basically have like a 24/7 patrol around 1128's hunting grounds. I'm assuming the reason why this thing is classified as Euclid instead of Keter is because it's extremely territorial and probably doesn't move outside of its hunting grounds, probably due to its like ability to transport like prey to it. So I'm assuming it just like doesn't leave its area, which I'm assuming is why they classify it as Euclid. But even still, like, it's this giant fuck off massive sea creature that eats whales and like teleports people to it. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it should be a Keter, but I guess, I mean, what the fuck do I know? I'm not a researcher. But yeah, that's essentially all the information about 1128 that's relevant for this discussion. There are a couple other experiments that involve 1128, like the one guy who was sent into 1128's ocean with a gun and was tasked with shooting it, and he died. No shock there. But there was also this other experiment where a guy was lowered into like a vat of chemicals to see if 1128 could transport him to its location if he was submerged in liquids that wasn't water. And sure enough, he wasn't transported to 1128's location, but the researchers ultimately concluded that that information is completely useless due to the fact that water is an essential resource that you're going to need to interact with like every day of your life. So it doesn't matter that 1128 can't transport you to its location via other liquids, because at some point you have to like interact with water, whether it is to drink, to bathe, or just like, you know, survive. But yeah, that was 1128. Overall, I think the concept alone is like super cool, and like I know I kind of like rag on it for being just like absolutely insanely over the top and kind of goofy in some aspects, like the dude with the water bottle. But that's honestly because I just love it. Like, I think the concept is like horrifying. This like giant sea creature that could just teleport you to it by just like knowing what it looks like. And I also really like, I appreciate the goofy aspects of it, because like, oh my god, dude, that mental image of that guy getting sucked into the water glass, oh my god, I absolutely love it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll be able to cover more SCP related stories in the future, because, you know, October's coming up and I want to like do some like horror focus content. But yeah, the Don't Starve Together series will come back at some point. I just haven't been kind of in the mood to play it. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for making it all the way through this far. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.